There's one person who's been running for president, and he's doing it with his own unique way. He's running as a Republican, Dr. Roland Roberts. He joins us now on America's Hope. Dr. Roberts, it's good of you to join us again.
Great to be with you, Kelly.
We talked some time ago, I think it was June of this year, when you were discussing about running on a purpose of saying America needs God. Has that changed at all?
Not a single bit. In fact, if you look at world events, if anything, I think it's becoming more clear to the American people that where America is right now is beyond the help of politicians. It's beyond your policy. It's beyond the next think tank. What America needs is God more than ever. We need His blessing.
And so in running on that campaign, what have you been able to say to America on your campaign trails?
Well, that the family is the greatest threat and also the greatest blessing and our greatest strength to America. And so I'm running on national security, family, and economy.
When you look at the landscape of the candidates within the Republican Party, where do you see yourself standing in difference to them, and then even having some common ground with them?
Certainly. Well, first of all, there is no number two right now. I mean, you either have Trump and then you have everybody else.
Okay.
So there is no second place. I believe I'm running outside of that pack. It's one of the reasons why I didn't participate in the debates, because I felt like that was irrelevant. It's not the way to run this time in history for where America is at. We need to do things different. We have to do things better. We're talking about Gen Z. No one living has seen how Gen Z will affect a popular vote and for president of the United States. So to run the way things have always been, not to mention a World War III looming over our heads, and China and South China Sea and Iran and Israel and everything else, that alone changes the dynamic. But that's where I'm different. I'm not running the normal campaign because these aren't normal times. People need statesmen, not CEOs that know how to appease the governing bodies of either the Republicans or the Democrats.
Let's unpack that. You said a lot of things there. Generation Z. You see throughout America, people are protesting against Israel on college campuses. We see a rise in anti-Semitism. We see a rise in anti-Asian. We see more division. What's happening there, and how would you address that?
Well, it's a lot of indoctrination over the past couple decades while most Americans were sleeping. The problem is we've had it so comfortable, we've had it so easy, we've been focused on our retirement. And now I know politicians tell us how bad we have it, and if we don't vote for them, then we're going to lose our democracy. But the truth of the matter, and that has been the rhetoric from the last 20 years, but people still went to work the next day, they still went out to eat, they still took their annual vacation, and they didn't notice that. Yes, they may have taken a second job and things got tighter, but the issues today are so much greater, and we will have a profound lifestyle change in America if something doesn't change. The open border, all of the people coming in, what we're seeing around the world is child's play compared to what will happen in the United States if we don't get, not even if we get the border under control now, we also have to go back to what's already been done and fix who's already here.
So you're talking about the gotaways, the people who are coming in with a known terrorist behavior and perhaps trying to set up terror attacks on the United States, which we're now hearing the director of the FBI saying we have a problem.
Other governments have infiltrated us. Spycraft has been around, for centuries. What's different about this is that it wasn't just spycraft, it was a full-on invasion and an infiltration. And the interesting thing is, sometimes they're our neighbor. They're sitting next to us in coffee shops. As we saw from 9/11, they're at our flight schools. And then they go study at the coffee shop for their flight tests, and you would never know. They're already here. But the problem is you can't let that affect your prejudice to other people. We're still Americans in the United States of America. It is our leaders' responsibility to be held accountable for this. And that's why my plan for immigration, both for illegal immigration and for the people who are already here, is absolutely the best we've ever seen from either party.
If you were president today, what would you do about Israel and Ukraine?
Well, First of all, I'm working. I'm one of the editors of Ukraine's new constitution.
Talk to me about that real quickly.
Sure. So they're moving from obviously a USSR, old Soviet model, which their current constitution was actually written in Moscow in 1994. That would be like the British writing our constitution in 1776. It's a little bit skewed, okay? And so we want to help promote a free society in Ukraine. Free Nation is doing a great job over there, laying the groundwork. They're getting the support of the Ukrainian citizens and of the government officials. I was just with the European Union, 6 ministers, ex-ministers from the Eastern Bloc nations in Ukraine last week for this, discussing the way forward. They want to have a free country, but freedom is messy. And they're learning that it requires a lot of conversation, such as children going to school. Well, if they want to if you want ultimate freedom, the parents get to decide if their children are educated or not educated. Here in the United States, we decided to relinquish that freedom, and the state does mandate school attendance for children.
And now Israel, the topic of that.
Israel has to defend itself. Israel, one of the biggest misconceptions I've seen about this whole thing, I knew when I did the interview on October 20th, 3 weeks prior to these attacks happening on November 7th, they were asking me about Iran as it relates to the United States and them being one of our greatest threats. I said, they're not our greatest threat. They're the greatest, they're Israel's greatest threat. And that's where we need to be watching, because anything that happens to Israel, we're going to be drawn into that. And so I can tell you that all the countries within 24 hours lined up on one side of the other, whether you were Israel or Palestine. Palestine's not even a nation. So to even talk about them in that way shows the ignorance of the American public and really the world at large. Also, the other misconception I'm hearing is that they keep saying, well, the Israelites stole the land in 1948 whenever they took it. And ironically, they don't understand that this was promised to Abraham and to Isaac, and these are the children of Isaac and the children of Ishmael. They didn't take anybody's land. It was given to them, a couple millenniums ago.
Going back to antiquity. So, Dr. Roberts, you've been running. Are you getting traction? Do people know who you are? And take this opportunity now to tell people who you are. Who is Roland Roberts?
Well, I can tell you, we like where the campaign is at. Obviously, Vice President Pence is out, Larry Elder's out, Perry Johnson's out. A lot of people have dropped out already, the candidates, and we're just getting started. We've been running every day for months, since the beginning of the year, January 20th. But at this point, we just have a staff we hired last week. We have political consulting firms that are coming on. We have a super PAC that just got behind us. That's going to revolutionize our campaign and the landscape of it. Really, where the campaign is at is about getting our message out that America needs God. We have all the policies. It's on our website, RolandRoberts.com. We go over education and immigration and healthcare and concerns on the economy and the national debt, how to not balance the deficit, but to eliminate the national debt. What we're going to do on energy and nuclear energy and clean energy. What we're going to do on AI, artificial intelligence, and jobs of the future. That is where we are, and we can win on family, national security, and economy.
But who are you?
Who I am? I'm a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ, first and foremost. I'm a husband and a father. In fact, today's my son's 4-month birthday.
Congratulations.
4 months old, yes, yeah. But that's who I am. I mean, the Lord is everything to me, and I build my life around what pleases Him and following the best I can. I believe God called me to run for president. This was not an aspiration. This was not something that I aspired to. This was God calling me to run for president of the United States at this time for such a time as this. What He does with it, it's whatever gives Him the most glory, and we're fine with that.
So you're running on a call from God. And so my final question is, what's your hope for America?
My hope is that people turn back to Him and acknowledge Him once again. He said, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. If we don't acknowledge Him, we are doomed. If we acknowledge Him, then so many of the problems in America that we experience, we would not experience. We're trying to solve them the wrong way. And we just have to acknowledge Him once again.
Dr. Roland Roberts, thank you for being on America's Hope.
It was a pleasure.
Appreciate you.
Thank
God
you,
bless
Kelly.
you. Thank you.
If good policy and good candidates could save America, we would already be saved, and we aren't. My belief and vision is that America needs God, and until he is recognized in America in his rightful place again, no amount of policy, no amount of protesting, no amount of rioting will solve the division in America today.
Mm-hmm. And now, do you have any plans for, future political involvement?
We're going to keep all of our events. We're going to keep mobilizing, and we are going to keep speaking this truth that America needs God, and an America without God will fail. And also on what the economy needs to look like and what national security, how do we best secure ourselves and our borders and immigration, education, energy, and then also on strengthening families. I believe that the strength of the family is the strength of the nation. And so we're going to continue and probably even add more events as the days go by.
And talk directly to the American people. What are the top 3 reasons why they should vote for you if it comes to that?
Well, it's coming to that. We're here. And I can tell you, the 3 reasons why I hope to earn every American's vote, your vote, is because I will acknowledge God in America once again. And the reason why that matters to you is because whether you believe in God or not, whether you believe there is one or not, is irrelevant. If we acknowledge God once again, our nation will be blessed. Your family is better off for it, and you don't even know why. There's peace in the land, and there's more happiness, there's more prosperity, there's more health, better family relations. See, people don't even understand why the wayward children and mothers and fathers and home, they don't even understand why there's so many problems, and it's tied to this. And whether you do or don't, America will be blessed because I personally acknowledge God as President of the United States every day. The second reason why you should vote for me is because you will sleep better at night. You will be safer. You'll have more money in your pockets. Your life will be better. And the third reason you should vote for Roland Roberts for president is because your children will have a much brighter future with me as president, because they won't be saddled with the debt that is currently dragging us down, and they will have more education and opportunities than any of us have known in our lifetimes.
Dr. Roland Roberts, thank you so much for taking the time. There are so many more questions that I would love to ask. We might have to do a part 2 at some point. Thank you so much, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Righteous Nation Live. I'm glad to be with you tonight. It has been a whirlwind week of travel. And so I'm glad to be settled on this Thursday evening and us spend a few minutes together. Let me just tell you, you're going to hear some wonderful things tonight. You're going to leave inspired. You're going to leave this hour being hopeful because we live in a world that if you turn on the news, it's not good. If you read the briefings, I can tell you it's not good. If you listen to the FBI director testify under oath before Congress, it's not good. But we don't walk by sight, we walk by faith, and we also happen to know the ending. We're not guessing. So many people asked me whenever I was doing some things to assist the COVID White House task force in the early days, whenever I started seeing some things go off track, and then I pulled out in end of April of 2020, everyone was saying, well, that's impossible to know. We couldn't have known this or that or the other. And the problem is they say that about every problem in life. They say that about every war. They say that about every conflict on earth. And the truth is, we can know. There is such a thing called wisdom, divine wisdom. There is discernment and a special discernment of our times. There is different levels of knowledge and being able to assess data and see things that other people just simply cannot see. And so I believe that that's where we are, and that's what our campaign stands for. That's why we promote Righteous Nation, because let me just ask you, imagine with me, if you will, can you imagine a president that you knew every day was going to do what was right by you and by every American and by all people and all nations on earth. What would that kind of a presidency even look like? I'm not talking about Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, Constitution Party, Green Party. I'm not talking about any of the named parties. I'm just talking about as a human being, as leader of the free world, as president of the United States, what would happen if that's what we did on a daily basis? What would the world look like? Well, I can tell you that everything rises and falls on leadership. And so we know that if there was a president that even when no one was looking, even when it would not be found out, which is a misnomer and a farce anyway, but even if it was guaranteed to never be found out, but you knew they would always do what's right by you and everyone. Can you imagine? You all of a sudden, it would relieve so much anxiety. You wouldn't worry about what the news is going to tell you because you're able to just say, I know that they're going to do what's right. I know that they will do what's right. And if something happens that's not right, he's going to fix it. He's going to make it right. It doesn't mean wrong never happens. It means when it does, he'll make it right. Can you imagine that America? I can tell you that nations around the world can imagine that kind of America. That's why we have the support of so many people and presidents and government officials from other nations that champion our presidency and really want to see it. It has nothing to do with policy. It has nothing to do with handouts or aid or even investment. It has everything to do with we just want an America to lead again. We want them to do what is right. Lead what? They're not begging for us to go conquer the world economically. They're not asking for us to build mega skyscrapers and meccas of business and industry. That's not what they need from America. What Americans need from America and what people in nations around the earth need from America is leadership of humanity, leadership of morality, leadership of ethics. Just do what is right. And that is why each of you are here and watching by one of our broadcasts, either on social media, streaming on your smart television, however you're watching us tonight. That's why you're here, because we want to be a righteous nation together, one that commits to standing for what is right and one that is going to do right by one another and by all people and nations of the earth. And that's what my campaign for president is in a nutshell. I could spend a long time, longer than we have together tonight, talking about all of the different issues. I had a late breakfast yesterday with a group of businessmen that we talked for, I think, 2 hours or more, just about education and the education system. And in order to fix certain aspects of that, how that changes the economy, how it changes the work schedule, how it changes all other facets of life, and how when you change and address one system, it breaks or fixes several other systems in culture and economy. And so we like to go deep on that, and on energy and nuclear energy and clean coal and methane hydrates. Most people have never even heard of methane hydrates, yet there's 9,000 years worth of methane hydrates in American soil now that would, at our current energy consumption rates, we'd be able to do that. So why then in parts of California can people not run their dishwasher and their washing machine at the same time? Why do we struggle so much with energy in the United States when we're supposed to be the most advanced nation on earth? The truth is, the more you travel internationally, the more you realize we had the greatest infrastructure at one point. But if you understand business, if you don't keep up with that, then others can look at what you're doing, improve on that, innovate on that, and leapfrog you. So they never even get what you have. It's kind of like if someone just started researching phones and they buy the iPhone, whatever we're up to. I just got this new one, maybe 15 or something. I don't know, whatever the new iPhone number is. But I started off with the very first iPhone. So it would be like someone coming in at this model phone and thinking that's the way it always was, leapfrogging where I was, and especially if I was still using one of the earlier models. Their first introduction to electric grids and utilities and education systems and immigration and law and order in a justice system, their first introduction is already far more advanced than all the iterations that we've been through. And here's the reason why that matters, because it clutters your mind the more things that you've gone through. You're also wiser, you understand more aspects to things, but it can also hold you back in being able to innovate, because you've learned so many ways it doesn't work that sometimes your mind gets closed to possibility. We see that in startups all the time compared to, the major companies aren't the ones that come out with the major breakthroughs. It's always startup companies. And then the major companies end up buying those innovative startups, because the larger a system is, the less innovative it naturally has to become to be stable. And so as a campaign and as a president, see, what we have to do is champion what is right in the culture. We were playing some of the videos from past interviews and hearing about immigration. Immigration, is a hot topic today. But let me tell you, this presidential election is quickly moving away from the issues. Now, the media still makes it about these things every day. And if you talk to politically astute and politically informed people, they do still want to talk about issues, okay? But mainstream Americans, which, by the way, the number of people who vote compared to the number of eligible voters is always a minuscule amount. And get this, even of the people who are registered to vote, only usually about 30% vote of the ones that are registered, and only a small fraction of the people eligible to register to vote are even registered. So what I'm talking about is when I'm talking to the people that either are eligible to vote or and aren't even registered, or maybe they're registered and rarely vote. When I talk to the very casual political observer, they're not wanting to talk and debate issues. They don't want to hear my policy on anything. What they want to know, and I think this is right, is who are you? What kind of a person are you? And are you going to make our life better or worse? Not by what you do for us, but by who you are. And so that's when we're able to get into some really good conversations that elevate above the issues. Well, what's above the issues? Well, what's bigger than politics? And that's what Righteous Nation is all about. It's not a political program every Thursday night. It is bigger than that. It is about righteousness and doing right. It is bigger than the issues. 1 hour a week is not near enough to equip you mentally, spiritually, motivationally, in your spirit, your soul. It's not enough compared to the amount of attacks and information that you are just being assaulted with throughout the week. All I can do, and what our team endeavors to do, is to help you refocus. Every now and then life gets kind of blurry anyway. And especially in the hectic world we live in, when you're just trying to make ends meet and you're going here, there, and yonder, and you're working hard, you're working multiple jobs. And maybe if you've got kids, you're dropping them off at school or picking them up or going to practices and sporting events and ballets and recitals. And you've got events every night of the week. I mean, when I was living in Orlando full time, I had something going on every night of the week. I mean, it's nonstop. You're working all day, you're working all night. And so it's easy to get caught up in life. And then you realize you're not even making a difference in the bigger picture that you could make. And that is what Righteous Nation endeavors to do, is bring that back into focus, to show and empower you, inspire you how you can stand for what is right in your nation. And I welcome the people from Africa who are with us. I welcome the people from the Eastern Bloc nations who are with us, and those from the Asian nations that are with us. I know it is tomorrow morning, and some of you it's the middle of the night. And so I want to thank you for being with us. Thank you for your faithfulness to support the message of Righteous Nation. And there's many ways that you can do it. Obviously, you can see with the websites, righteousnation.org and then RolandRoberts.com. Those are a couple of the best places to reach us. And we'll share a little bit later ways that you can really get involved. But I wanted to just welcome you tonight. And I want you to hear from some of the team about some of the things that have been going on this week. So the first person that I'm going to bring to the stage with me is Stefan Wetzel. I was with him just yesterday in Palm Beach, Florida. We were a few miles from Mar-a-Lago. There's someone that you might have heard of that lives there. And we were there, and I want him to just kind of share what we were doing there and what the feedback was. And Stefan, if go ahead and let's also talk about some of the questions because we had a Q&A and hands were going up, the entire time. I think when we cut it off, there were still 5-6 hands in the air. So Stefan, welcome to Righteous Nation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Roberts. Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, we were yesterday in beautiful West Palm Beach in Florida and had a breakfast, just men there, businessman, very successful businessman, but it was a Christian, breakfast. And there were about 80 to 90 men, and they were really curious to find out, who is this Dr. Roberts? We've never heard of him. What presidential candidate? What is that person? So they already asked me beforehand, but then we got the chance to introduce Dr. Roberts there. And it was really talking the Holy Spirit through you. So the first part was really the presentation about your life, what you already achieved in your life, but also every single move that you did and how God moved you and what are your values. Why are you running for presidency, and why do we want to have people join us here in Righteous Nation? Why should people really get on board, mobilize other people, just get the message out to people? And then we got a nice Q&A session where really it seemed like the authority shifted. It was not you anymore with a little bit of Holy Spirit, but it was the Holy Spirit just moving and really, in an incredible way. You were talking and answering questions, and people from all kind of ages with different backgrounds, experience, they were really amazed how this whole session went. And after that, we had just maybe a half an hour of people asking questions just off the stage. And one of the founding members of this breakfast, which exists now for about, I think, almost 20 years, he told Dr. Roberts, well, I've always or almost been to all the meetings that we had in those 20 years. But that was one of the most incredible speakers meetings that we had, because we saw that this man is really authentic, and this is a message that everyone has to hear. It's not just something for our small group or our families. This message really has to go out to the whole nation. And that was really, where you just get goosebumps when you hear such a nice confirmation that Righteous Nation and what God puts in your heart and what we started, this movement, it's just the right move now to move on. And then we moved on to a different place, just with 6 or 8 people we were in total. And really, we had discussions all over the place. There was an ambassador of the United Nations with us, a person that was already involved with Trump's campaign in a few years back. So he has experience in the White House, and topics all over. If it was about energy, if it was about education, they all agreed that this whole system has to be revolutionized. There is no way that we just adapt a few things. And there was about AI, the new technology. So what could be things that we have to work on, and which people should also come on board. So it was really incredible to see how people get the idea and they jump in and they really want to be part of and want to contribute. And I think that's what we also want here in this meeting, that you are always encouraged to bring more people into Righteous Nation, that the heart is why we are here, why we are doing it. But this message has to go out and reach as many people as possible. And we can really benefit of this suspended campaign, so we can run and can do whatever we want to do. And yeah, so I'm really blessed that we had that nice meeting yesterday, and I'm looking forward to many more. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Thank you for sharing. You know, I remember some of the questions during the large group after I spoke, and one of them, you know, they were asked, well, what specifically can we do to stand, you know, for righteousness? And there were questions on privacy, especially, you know, with the surveillance state. What were some of the other questions that came up? Do you recall?
Well, one question absolutely was, but what does a righteous nation look like for you? What is righteousness for you?
That's right. And I answered that question by saying that what righteousness looks like for the President of the United States. And I appreciated the question because, especially with having Righteous Nation, people will talk about different things. So, for example, part of being in a Righteous Nation setting, they're afraid that there's going to be a theocracy. That if somebody is focused on the Lord or God, or saying America needs God, they're afraid that, oh, are you going to try to legislate righteousness? That's not what Righteous Nation's about. We're not a group of activists. We're not trying to impose a theocracy. And the way I explained was that what a righteous president looks like and what a President Roberts would look like is that I will do right. Before God, I will fear God, and I will do right by all people and all nations on earth. And the justification or the explanation for that biblically for me comes from the Israelites, from the Jewish the nation of Israel, where thousands of years ago, whenever they got their first king, King Saul, about every king of Israel, it was said that he either did that which was right in the sight of God or that which was evil in the sight of God. There was no middle. There was no sliding scale of you were kind of over here and, you know, here. It was you were this or you were this. And in America, we don't like that. We like to live in the gray. We like to, you know, mostly this, but a little bit of that. And, you know, but that's not the expectation. That's not the bar that God judges rulers by. It was you did that which was right before me and that which was wrong before me. And so that's how I answered that question. And that's also why I tell people that's why your life will be better, regardless of the policies, regardless of all of these other things that even though I think that will practically really make your life a lot better. But imagine if we weren't talking about even just issues. Imagine having a righteous president the way I just described it, and what that does for your family. You know, your children may actually not have to take antidepressants because they're not as anxious about life, because they're not as bullied at school, because they're getting a better education and they're not bored to death at school, or they're really being challenged about the kind of education they're learning the way they need to learn, or they're not taking drugs, or they're not being incarcerated. They're not committing suicide. They're not taking their life. I mean, or maybe there's wayward families that they reconnect and their family ties strengthen. I have said repeatedly, and it's one of the byproducts of the Righteous Nation mentality, is a strong family. Families are the fabric and root of all societies. You know, when I work with other presidents and other nations, they don't believe in God, but they absolutely believe in family. And they will legislate far more aggressively than the United States does to protect family. There are countries that you will go to prison, and I'm talking about very modernized, advanced countries, not some weird, third world dictatorship somewhere. I mean, some modern countries with modern amenities that in the last several years passed legislation that if you even support a homosexual lifestyle, you're going to prison for 10 years. I mean, in the United States, that's, we couldn't fathom that happening just for supporting, much less if you were, then you get even a longer prison sentence, mandatory. And the grounds for which these other countries are doing that, even Russia, even Putin talks about that family is what holds his society together. I don't think anybody equates Putin and righteousness necessarily, and even he recognizes and has acknowledged that family is what holds societies together. And so one of the things that I believe to be a righteous nation, and as a righteous president, I have to support and promote healthy, strong families. And that's what we want to do. There are so many different ways that we can help and promote, encourage it. Right now, everything mocks a traditional family. Everything almost shames. There's a lot of things. It's funny because when our tax system was even set up, it was set up to incentivize families. Even the American government wanted you to marry. That's why the tax rate actually went down for married couples, married filing jointly. Please get married and we'll give you a tax break. Literally, that's what the government, and it wasn't because they believe in marriage or they believe in family. It's because, well, they knew that the GDP rises whenever you have more families. So that's why the tax system has nothing to do with faith. It has everything to do with commerce. And I'll tell you, strong families also have a lot to do with national security. I have not found one person in traversing this country with a gender dysphoria or questions around their gender identity that came from a traditional family, a strong two-person mother, father home. Most every case, and not most every case that I've talked to, I would never say every case because there's always exceptions to every rule. But by and large, you will find that behind every single one of the dysphorias, there's pain, there's hurt, there's been family dysfunction, and there may have even been sexual abuse behind every single last one of them. That's not okay. And the fact that we're, as a nation, talking about so many other things, and you got half the country demonizing those people, and then you got the other side who isn't sure how to address it, and it leaves the country torn apart. And that's repeated issue after issue after issue. So we have to do what is right by all people. And a part of that is having wisdom and discernment on what to do, how to do it. So yeah, I think there's so many great questions yesterday, but what does that look like? And so we just talked about it. Very real, very real matters facing people in their lives today. And then how do we lovingly humanly address these problems? It's the same thing for illegal immigration in the United States. And I've talked about it many times. The ones that are here that came in legally on a visa versus the ones that are that we are leading across the border. And by the way, when we're the ones leading them, are they actually illegal? We're the ones who invited them. We recruited them. We welcomed them. In their minds, they're not here illegally. You asked me to come. If you invite me to your home, Stefan, and I come, you can't then look at me when I'm in your home and say, why are you here? You shouldn't be here. You're here illegally. What do you mean I'm here illegally? You invited me into your home. And yet that's what the United States is doing right now. We're saying you're not welcome. And then on the other hand, you have other people in the country who are saying, in the government who has facilitated it. We have real issues in this country. Right is called wrong. Wrong is, and it's not just in this country, it's around the world. Most people, even the non-astute, non-political people, look around and say something's broken. Something's not working. Something's not right. They don't talk about the issues. They just say it's upside down. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what I'm telling you. That's why I'm running for president. That is what, and that's what Righteous Nation stands for as a movement, as a cause, as a people in nations around the world to stand for righteousness, because that is what solves so many of our culture problems, so many of the social problems, and problems we face in society, crime, families, education, teen pregnancies, drug use, incarceration rates, fentanyl, you name it. It is solved by promoting and being and doing right ourselves by other people. And then can you imagine having a nation who says we are going to do right? We would shock other nations to death if we actually made that kind of a declaration. They are used to us scheming. They're used to us being conniving. They're used to us manipulating and bullying. Let me ask you this. How many of you want to be in a relationship like that? Any takers? Anybody want to sign up for the abuse today? Anybody want to sign up for the abusive control and the manipulation? And no, nobody wants that. We have to start doing right. It is in our best, if for no other reason, for our own self-interest, do what is right. But the reason we don't is because of pride, because a lust for power, and because of arrogance, just sheer arrogance. And I'm telling you, we need to humble ourselves. It's the 2 Chronicles 7:14 before God. And that's why I'm not running on who I am. I'm running on who he is. America needs God, and an America without God will fail. It's a promise. It's not, a hypothetical. It's just the way it has been. It is what he said, and it is what has happened to every single empire this world has ever known. And friends, we will not be the exception. We will not be the exception. So, Stefan, thank you for sharing about some of the events this week. It was a great time, and it was great being with you as well.
Thank you.
All right. Now what I want to do, I have several people I want to acknowledge and let them say a quick hello. And then I'm going to bring in Dr. Melody to say a few words. Let me have Pastor Success. We're going to go ahead and welcome you to the stage. Greetings, Pastor. Thank you for being here from Des Moines, Iowa. And so tell us your thoughts on what is going on and how Righteous Nation, why we are needed in America and the world at large. Welcome.
Good evening again, everybody. It's an honor to be here, Dr. Roland. I'm glad that I'm here again and given the opportunity to talk to you and the rest of the team. You rightly stated, like I always say, America is the leader of the world. And if America is the leader of the world, America ought to set a standard that the world can follow. A standard that is not going to impose, but a standard that other people will see and get encouraged, get motivated. And the only standard you can set is the standard of God. Because When God is in charge of a nation, the nation succeed, the nation prosper, the people succeed, the people get happy. Because one of the major standards of God for a nation, like you rightly stated, is family. Today in our generation, the family are all broken apart. There's no rules, or there's no law and order. There's no governance system for the family. Everybody, kind of mothers are doing something contrary to the will of the father doing something contrary. The children are wayward on the street, they're living on drugs, So if we become a righteous nation, our first and foremost concern would be on the family, because when the family becomes better, you have a better society, you have a better, community, everything. Because the entire life starts with the family. So again, I just want to say thank you for granting me the opportunity. We are still working behind the scene. I'm not too sure if Dr. Anaya Zoe is on tonight. He and I talked to Dr. Benate, my spiritual father, Bishop Ten, and we invited him to this team. He came to be a part of the team. I added him to the chat room. He's one of our Liberia presidential candidate. He contested in 2011, and he also a Republican. He's been very zealous to talk to Dr. Rowland to come and be a part of the team. So again, I want to say thank you to everybody, and we continue to do what we can to ensure that the righteous nation, a nation that we all want, we envision come to reality. Thank you so much, Dr. Rowland.
Thank you so much. It's great for you to be with us tonight. Thank you, Pastor Stutz, for those words. Righteousness exalts a nation. It's a promise. And blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. I'm excited because we don't have to run on empty campaign promises and rhetoric. We can all stand and we can all make a difference. And that is what we're doing together. I would like at this time, I'll bring Dr. Melody Garcia to the stage, and I want to welcome you. Greetings.
Good evening. Our future president and one of the leaders of nations. How are you doing today?
Amen. Doing great. Thank you.
So I wanted to, well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and also good morning and good afternoon from whatever parts of the world you are at. So I'd like to give, just a highlight here of the importance of giving. We have been following Dr. Roland Roberts for quite some time now. And as we know that we birthed out of this kingdom adventure, as I call it, Righteous Nation. One of the most critical focuses that we have, in addition to his presidency, is in the gift of giving. So I'm here to represent two voices this evening, Ambassador Dr. Mark Anthony King and myself, on the reason I came up, actually, Dr. Roland, with 15 different points on the importance of giving. So starting with what Dr. Mark Anthony King had stated for our audiences around the world. For those of you that would love to give under the Righteous Nation platform, the presidential candidate platform, or the Friends, Dr. Roland Roberts, that platform, here are the 15 different points. Just think about this, and I hope you write it down. First one, you're giving to a presidency who isn't sold out on a particular party. We live now in a world, especially here in the United States, that people have gone so politically right, politically left, or independent, that the quality of candidate that they need to really focus on and the values they bring is fast becoming lost. They're more loyal to the party than the values that a president brings, and that's not what Dr. Roland stands for. Dr. Roland Roberts stands for a president who isn't sold out to a particular party. Number two, you're giving to a president who's committed to the betterment of a world. Number three, you're giving to a presidency who has an established track record of positive disruption, driving in humanitarian values to impoverished nations who America exploits but doesn't support. He's been very audaciously bold, and rightfully so, because as a leader, you have a responsibility not only to our nation, but nations. You're giving to a presidency who's submitted to God first and foremost, and then committed to the people. You're giving to a presidency who builds bridges with leadership or with leaders versus throwing stones You're also giving to a presidential candidate who literally puts his life on the line for the causes that he supports. You're giving to a presidential candidate who has an established and illustrious track record, not only as a successful CEO, but an international diplomat and a cybersecurity expert. You're giving to a presidency that is championing family values. He stressed on that this evening. In a society that's destroying the nucleus. You're giving to a presidency that accurately predicted the conflict. If you watch prior media interviews, Philippines and Gaza. Why? Because of his foreign affairs expertise. Number 10, you're giving to a presidency who doesn't tap dance around culturally sensitive or taboo issues, but addresses them head on and very specific at his addresses. Number 11, you're giving to a presidency who boldly addresses the hypocrisy of American leadership and the abuses that we extend. Now, as we move forward with Righteous Nation, when you give, this allows us to expand the network of leaders, not only from the US, but around the world. It also helps empower platforms and people. It also helps your business reputation that you are a supporter of a worthwhile cause for those of you that are entrepreneurs that may be watching. It also positions you on the business for good marketing. Why? It's about branding, but are you being branded the right way? It's being branded and marketed to be associated and proactive on platforms demanding positive change. And lastly, it is the right thing to do. So if you take a look at what is shown on screen right now, there's 3 ways to give. Number 1, it's through Righteous Nation. It supports the message. It is an unlimited donation size. We have the option for anonymous giving, and anywhere and anybody can give from different parts of the world, and businesses can also give. The second platform is through RolandRoberts.com for Roland Roberts for President, and again, it helps support the campaign. It's limited to $6,600 USD for couple, and you must be a U.S. citizen, and individuals only, and no businesses can give towards this, so meaning as an independent. The last option is Friends of America. The benefits, it again supports the campaign and the message. So it supports both Roland Roberts for President and Righteous Nation. It is an unlimited donation size, but only limited to U.S. citizens and U.S. companies. For more information, I would encourage you to go to RolandRoberts.com or RighteousNations.org and RolandRoberts.com again for Friends of America. But I've given you about 15 to 16 points on the importance of giving. There's a famous quote that goes, "People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." And part of that action is through giving. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Melody. Wow, that was just a great overview. And certainly we want to encourage people to give. It's because of your giving why we're able to do what we do. It is the giving to Righteous Nation and giving to the campaign that allows me to make appearances, that allows me to go speak to a room of captains of industry and faith in Palm Beach, Florida, or we have different conferences and events upcoming. We were invited just this very day, earlier, just hours ago, to speak for Memorial Day services and for special July 4th services and Veterans Day services. And so, but it doesn't just happen. It requires people who want to support the message. And I love how it's laid out, because if you just want to support the message, maybe you're supporting some candidate or you just don't want to ever support any political anything, that's fine. But you have enough common sense to know things are broken and they need to be made right. And if you just want to support that message, no matter where you are in the world, no matter whether you're an individual or a business, anybody can give any amount at righteousnation.org. And you can give a little bit, you can give a lot, you can give one time, you can give weekly, the 1st and 15th, monthly, however you get paid. You're able to just really continue to support the message in however you see fit. And I know a lot of people do it for their grandchildren. They do it for their children. They do it for their legacy, their posterity. Some people just do it because they love their nation. You know, we have people from other nations that are part of Righteous Nation. This is what allows us to go. And you're in it every day, working on events in Dubai, working on events in Liberia, working on us being in different parts of the world, the Middle East, different parts for people who care about their nations. They want to see their nations thrive. They want to see their nations prosper. And so we're only able to do these type things because people are faithful. And, I don't hide from that. That's just the way it is. But you know what I've also found is that it also, when people get involved financially, it changes the attitude. It really changes a lot of things because then it's no longer head knowledge, their heart's in it. And because we've been at this for over a year. Yes. And you can tell the people whose heart is in it versus those who are just kind of there or coming along. And giving is one of the ways that everyone, their heart can be there. It's like we have Senor Miguel Vilas. I don't know if he can come on the camera, but if he can, he and Prince Ominahu, those two men have gone with me in places that nobody would voluntarily normally go. And they have been a great help. They are a great support in every way. And that's what I'm talking about. Their heart is in it, and we've gotten to see it. And the great thing is everybody else sees it. Everybody else has seen it. The people on social media, other campaigns, the general public, they're looking at this going, wow, those guys are amazing. And it's because people are able to see their hearts and what we believe, whatever our hand finds to do it with all of our might. Because we don't do things halfway. And that's not just a business thing. That's just a God thing. Like we're doing it for his honor and his glory. So thank you for sharing that tonight. And I know we have plans and trying to even build up our teams and delegations to go to these other nations, to stand for what is right in all of the different nations. And the red carpet is there for us, yes. But it's going to be dependent upon people being doing what God lays on their heart to do, and generosity to people.
Right. And there's one thing that I wanted to stress here because Dr. Rowland hit it perfectly, right? There are people who just talks and there's people who takes action. So for those of us that we say we're believers, there's faith in theory and faith in action. And the Bible is very explicit by saying faith without works is dead. Part of that is that activation of that giving. Part of that is taking massive action. There are about, and this is for full transparency for everyone watching, there's about 6 countries waiting for our arrival. And these are the countries that I'm closely working with, along with my team with Ambassador Dr. Mark Anthony King and a couple more within our group that is partnering with Dr. Rowland. But there's Liberia, there's Ukraine, there's Dubai, there's Saudi Arabia, Japan, the Philippines. That's just the start of the open invitation for us to walk into those to impact nations with our messages. So think about that, but we are going to need your financial support to get those messages going, to start unifying nations and empowering other leaders to rise up with us. So we have those 3 links we will be making available for all his social media platforms. And we look forward to a praise report next Thursday night to see those finances going up.
That's right. Amen. Thank you so much, Dr. Melody. So thankful for her and just her heart and how she's been used so mightily in so many different ways. What I want to do, I'm going to take some questions here in a few moments. If you have some, you can put them in the chat. One of the things you may have noticed a format change this week. Last week we were doing different streaming on different through different platforms, and we wanted the quality of the production to be improved. And so we're going to continue to keep making enhancements and adjustments each Thursday night for you. But that also means that we have to, more people will watch it on TV. More people will watch it on their YouTube app, which they'll be notified of if they subscribe to us. Also on Facebook, Righteous Nation, the Righteous Nation's Facebook page. You can go to that, make sure that you subscribe or like that, follow it, and you'll be notified. But one of the things I challenge you to do, because we obviously always want it to grow, consider having somebody over to your house and putting it up on the TV. You've got a smart TV. YouTube's one of the options. Put it on, and have some cookies out, and have a good time together, and plan on just watching it 1 hour a week, just coming over and being a part of it. I think it will greatly enrich your life. Not even just so much this, but it will give you all something to talk about with what is said, and that's always fun. It's kind of like in our house. Before I ran for president, whenever there was a presidential debate, it was a party night, and so we'd put it on and have fun with it. But and also my wife, coming from doing beauty pageants and things like that, whenever there are certain national and international beauty pageants on, she makes that a party night, and it's always fun when there are more people that are a part of it. And so I want to challenge you and encourage each of you to do that, even next Thursday night. Share it on your social platforms. We want to get the message. So we want to get the message out, and it really depends, and we depend upon each of you to share that and to do that. So I want to close tonight with one thought that I believe will send us out. And if you have questions, put them in the chat, both in the streaming software or online. And by the way, people can stream by going to righteousnation.org. Scroll about halfway down, there's a big old box. And if you click on that, it's going to take you to a big, beautiful, dedicated streaming platform where all you see is this and an ongoing chat. That's where you can put the questions. We'll have our team monitoring that so that we can make sure that we can answer and address your questions. I want to leave you with one challenge, one thought for tonight. It's Deuteronomy 7, verse 1. It says, "When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it," and we are going towards a land to possess it, "and hath cast out many nations before thee." It means a bunch of people have tried before, unsuccessfully. The Hittites, and he actually goes through and names a bunch of them because they were such large countries and armies. The Hittites, the Gershishites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, and the mosquito bites. No, I'm just kidding. I added the last one. But in the Jebusites, 7 nations, and this is the part I want you to get, greater and mightier than thou. He's saying, look, the land that I'm giving you to go possess, 7 nations who are bigger than you are, mightier than you are, stronger than you are, couldn't make it. But you will. But you will. And as I reflected on that, I got to thinking, how many people under the sound of our voice, they have something bigger and stronger and mightier than them that they're struggling with tonight. Something that they're just not sure how they're going to overcome. And they're looking and saying all of the reasons why they should not be successful. And they're not wrong. 7 nations stronger, better, have gone before unsuccessfully. But I want you to rest tonight in the fact that when the Lord thy God shall bring thee, he will bring you to it and through it. When nothing else worked, when it failed for people who had all the money, who had all the power, who had everything going for them, and they still couldn't make it work, it'll still work for you. You have to have hope. When we have that kind of faith, there's nothing to fear. I may get some horrible reports when we get off of this broadcast. We are so close to World War III, and not because it's not preventable, but because people desperately want it. It's sick. And we're very close to it. And yet, there is nothing to fear. You know, I don't have to worry about keeping up with things as much whenever my commitment is just to do right by people and nations. And you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry tonight. When you read the news, when you see it on your social, when you see it on TV, however you get the news, when you hear your friends who are losing their minds, rightfully so, with how crazy the world is, you will not have anything to fear because you are part of a righteous nation. And so I'm grateful for each one of you. Just know that this coming week, we have great things happening every day. There's not a day that goes by that we're not standing together. And there's a lot of ways to stand. One of the questions that Stefan and I got yesterday was, how do you stand? And I said, well, the first thing is to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. But after that, standing is going to look different for different people. And it's going to be whatever gifts and talents and treasure he has given you. Maybe he's given you the gift of media. Maybe he's given you the gift of encouragement. Maybe he's given you the financial success, whatever it is. And there's people watching on social media right now who could write a $1 million check tomorrow. And if you'll message me, we'll give you the address, or we'll get in a plane and come meet you. But you really can. And you know that a presidency with this philosophy and worldview resonates with your soul, then stand in the gap on behalf of your nation. Maybe you don't have children. Maybe you don't have grandchildren. Just stand on behalf of your nation that has been so good to you, that has allowed you to flourish and become economically successful. And then there's others who they hold my arms up. They would stand with me. I acknowledge Stefan and Prince Aminu and Senior Miguel Vilas again, who in negative 45 plus degree wind chill and then negative 20 regular Fahrenheit were standing with me in Iowa for days. I mean, that is brutal, harsh weather conditions. And there's others who they're booking podcasts and they're booking commercial interviews, and they're just they're using whatever is in their hand to bless Righteous Nation or to bless the campaign. So stand for righteousness, be a part. You just rest knowing every single day we are standing for you and for what is right in America and around the world. So thank you all so much for being with us. Remember to invite someone next Thursday night, share the links with them, and may God bless each of you. Have a great night.